На мой взгляд, американская администрация сейчас находится между молотом и наковальней, где под молотом...
Deputy chairperson of Russia's Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, has trained his guns on Russia's adversaries. The words are scathing, the claims are shocking, and Moscow is watching the cracks widen. Europe, the United States, Ukraine, no one is spared. Medvedev says what is not spoken on diplomatic calls is now being said on the mic. Here is what he has said.
It is hardly possible to consider that a country which steals presidents and starts conflicts like this can act as an effective mediator in all situations. Nevertheless, I cannot deny something else either. At least the current administration of the United States, the administration of Donald Trump, is trying to do something in this direction. Because it is enough to recall the previous Democratic administration of Biden. It simply harnessed the wheel of war, or the harness of war, and financed the conflict to the maximum extent.
A direct shot at Washington. Medvedev questions the United States' role as a mediator, even as Donald Trump claims he stopped 9 or 10 wars. Medvedev hits back, saying those conflicts have already reignited. He says the US is trapped, squeezed between Congress and Europe, unable to act freely.
I stopped 9 or 10 wars, but we ourselves understand what all this means. Words of a well-known politician today. The problem is that practically all of these conflicts have resumed again. Therefore, they are trying to do this. How effective is it? Well, firstly, there is the reputation of the United States itself. Secondly, the American administration is now between a rock and a hard place, Congress on one side and Europe on the other, and therefore it is not free in its approaches.
Then comes the bigger charge. This is no longer diplomacy, this is survival. Medvedev calls Russia's conflict with the West existential. He accuses Europe of wanting the Russian state to collapse, and says Moscow has learnt this lesson the hard way. He invokes history, saying Russia has only ever had 2 real allies.
You know, Alexander III turned out to be right with his well-known words that Russia has only 2 allies, the army and the navy. Quite recently, after the conflict in the Caucasus around South Ossetia and Abkhazia, I tried to build stable relations with Europeans. It seemed to me they understood our concerns, but the subsequent development of events proved the opposite. They do not understand much of what we say. They do not want to hear us. And, to put it bluntly, they want our state to perish.
From warning to outright escalation. Medvedev says a nuclear apocalypse is not theoretical. It is real. He compares today's tensions to the run-up to World War I and the 1930s before World War II. His message, the world is sliding towards something far bigger. And then the attack turns brutal. Europe is mocked, dismissed. Medvedev brands them the idiots of Europe, accusing EU leaders of destroying decades of stability while pushing the continent toward war. At the same time, he says Washington and Europe are now tearing into each other, openly divided, openly clashing.
In fact, it is quite amusing to watch how relations between the United States and Europe are developing. It is not about who we sympathize with. We have our own interests. We must focus on our country and its development. But the fact that they are now like spiders in a jar pleases me. I am watching this with great interest. As they say, we will keep watching further, so stock up on popcorn.
And then the final line. If Europe is clashing with America and America is clashing with the world, Medvedev says the outcome is already decided. Not diplomacy, not compromise, but one result.
If European countries quarrel with America, and America quarrels with the whole world, then how can this end? In short, Russia's victory.